Welcome to Talking Technology with VI Labs. At VI Labs, we believe technology is the single greatest enabler for people with sight loss and all disabilities. If you're looking for the latest news and conversation on tech from a more accessible perspective, you've come to the right place.
Yes, indeed you have. Hello everybody and welcome in to Talking Technology with VI Labs, episode number 84. Goodness, we're getting older. We are flying through our 80s at pace. But yeah, we will be at 90 before we know it. Hope you're keeping well. Hope all is going well, that you're enjoying the heat wave. And I must say, we're hanging on with bated breath right now because Daniel, who will be reading the news for us later on, he's not currently experiencing a heat wave because he is currently going through a thunderstorm. So we are hoping that he doesn't lose power before needing to read Talking Technology news. So we'll have to get on with things pretty pronto. We've also got a packed show coming up for you over the next hour or so. We are going to be joined by Stuart Lawler, a voice who is familiar, I'm sure, to many listeners of this podcast. But Stuart will be joining us from Sight and Sound to talk all about the Paige Braille. This is a really cool device that allows you to modify the Perkins Brailler and do some really, really cool stuff with the traditional Perkins Brailler without having to spend an absolute fortune. So we'll be talking to Stuart about that later on in the show as well. But first, a reminder that if you do want to get in touch with us, we would absolutely love to hear from you. And hey, there are loads of ways that you can join the conversation. So if you want to join the conversation, well, as I say, we'd love to hear from you. You can get in touch with us on WhatsApp. All you got to do, you can send a WhatsApp voice note or message to us over there. It's 086 199 0011. That's 086 199 0011. Or if you would prefer, you can get in touch the good old-fashioned way by email. The email address that you need, it's content@vi.ie. That's content@vi.ie. So whether you'd like to get in touch with us on WhatsApp or by email about the tech news, your tech thoughts, or anything else, we'd really love to hear from you. So 086 199 0011 or content@vi.ie. But now, though, to go through some of the correspondence that we had in over the last little while, there was a ton of correspondence related to our Open Move headphones competition. Thanks to everybody who got in touch regarding that. If you didn't hear, over on the VI Labs YouTube channel, the one and only Miss Jackie McBrearty won those. So congratulations again, Jackie. But we did have some correspondence that wasn't related to that competition. And to go through that, I am joined from Kilkenny, where I believe there is no thunder just yet, at least, by Mr. Joe Lonigan. Joe, how are you?
I'm all good, David. The sun is splitting the stones, as they say down here. So the weather is good and everything's good down here. So how are you, David?
All good. Yeah, we've been enjoying the heat wave down here as well. I'm just after recovering from the Eurovision weekend, which, contrary to popular belief, you can probably tell my voice is a little bit worn out, but it is not as a result of Eurovision, contrary to popular belief. Enjoying the sunshine, taking it easy, and can't complain, Joe.
You're a massive Eurovision fan, isn't that right, David?
I wouldn't say massive. I love for me, I love the production of it all, because I think, more so than the songs and all that, I love just content production and stuff like that. And nothing gets more technically complex than Eurovision because of its sheer scale. You look at the likes of Eurovision, or another, show would be like the Super Bowl in the States. Those are amazingly complex pieces of television, and I love just observing how that whole production works, especially when you're dealing with so many broadcasters, some of whom carry ads, some of whom don't, some of whom, you have different kind of infrastructure, the whole thing. I just find that kind of stuff fascinating.
That was a good way of dodging and saying that you're not a massive fan, but you still like it.
Look, look, if you want to call me a massive fan, I'll take it, Joe.
Yeah, okay. Sure. I'm joking.
Absolutely. But hey, let's get down to business then, Joe, because we do have some voice notes in from the week gone by. And one of those voice notes in is from Cian. And Cian had comments on various matters arising, including gaming and the Fire TV. Here is what Cian had to say.
Hi guys, how is things? I was listening to you as our last episode, and I heard some very good stuff on the technology news. I have to say, the tech news, and it's very interesting. Do you know, there's something I would love to see return. You know, on the A word, you know what I mean? Remember, did you ever know that there was a skill there called Dungeon Adventure? That was a class game, but they've removed it. It said it's no longer available now. So do you think there's a way of possibly trying to get that to come back one day somehow? Because it'd be lovely to see it return again, because I'd love to play it again. And I love some of the other games as well and stuff. Now, here's a very important question about TV, is, you know, like streaming things. I have a Fire Stick remote. It's great and all, but is there an accessible way for me to turn on audio description, say in Netflix, for example? Like, because for some strange reason I can't find the button to do it. I'm just wondering, is there a button I press on the Fire Stick remote to turn on audio description? Hope to hear from you soon, guys. Love your show as always.
Thanks so much, Cian. Really appreciate it. And do you know, it's an interesting point, Joe, first of all, to start off with the whole smart speaker gaming thing. Smart speaker gaming never really took off, did it?
Not majorly. No, I know Song Quiz is still really popular. Smart speaker gaming, the problem with it, I suppose, sometimes it doesn't fully hear your response, and then in the middle of the game it might think you've said yes instead of no, and it could ruin the game on you. There's a couple of little hiccups with it, but at the same time it's still a good concept. And to answer Keane's question on will it ever come back, the dungeon game he's talking about, I just about remember it, but I don't think it will come back unless a developer says, you know, the skills come and go on the smart speaker, and you can check them out by going to the app, going to more, and then skills and games, and you could search to see what other ones are similar to it. I know there is one called the Magic Door, probably something similar. You can pick doors to, and it keeps continuing on like that and keeps asking you questions, kind of an adventure guess game again, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But I don't see it coming. If they've had their time, if you know what I mean, and it didn't work out, it probably won't come back. But look, I suppose if whatever communities they're in regard gaming and all, you might hear of it coming back. I don't see them giving you any notifications of it coming back or anything like that. But look, glad you enjoyed it when it was there, but pity it's gone. As I said, there is a few quiz games, there's pub quiz, there's song quiz. They kind of suit smart speakers more than other games, you know what I mean, because they're all sound and question based.
Yeah, it's a shame. I think I remember going back along, there was games like you could play Deal or No Deal and stuff like that on your smart speaker. And there was another one, I think it was called Quizzables, but I'm open to correction on that. Tenables, I think it was called, actually. It was from a show on ITV in the UK. But I mean, I think it's a shame in a way that smart speaker gaming never took off, because it would have been quite an accessible format for those who were blind or low vision. But I think ultimately, when you think about it, I don't know anybody who ever spent money on a smart speaker game, and ultimately it's money does talk at the end of the day. And if a developer can't sustain that business like they can with an app or whatever, it's just not going to last. I think that the cost to upkeep, it's just not going to pay for it in the longer term, I suppose.
That's it. I think, money talks. It's like anything nowadays. Everything is subscription based. Give us €1 or €2 and we'll keep this going, and hopefully they might get 1,000, 10,000 subscribers, whatever they might need to sustain their own wage, if you know what I mean. But there is still some good games out there. One that comes to mind that is really good and really fun for all the family, no matter what age you are, is Aquanator. I don't know if you've ever tried that one.
Oh,
it's on.
Yes,
I think it's on them all. It's on the Google Home as well as the Amazon smart speaker. So you can guess, you think of a person, and then the Acquinator and the smart speaker will have to try and guess who you're thinking about. And it feels like magic and all, but obviously it's done through a database. It's actually brilliant though, So that's probably one of the better ones that I can think of off the top of my head. So Cian, if you're looking for a new game, try Acquinator and come back and let us know what you think of it.
I wonder, am I famous enough to be on Akinator, Joe? Are you?
David, I think you have a few more podcasts to go. Maybe I think
maybe.
Yeah.
By the time we reach 100, maybe we will there. But yeah, you'd wonder, like, for some of the niche celebrities. Not that I'm calling myself that. Obviously, I'm not that insane. But you would wonder, like, sometimes, because it's got to be just a massive database. But yeah, really cool. You answer questions, and the Akinator, the genie himself, works out who you're talking about. Really clever concept, and yes, available on, I think, most of the smart speakers, and via an app, which is last I checked, decently voiceover accessible, I believe, Joe. So yeah, that's Akinator. But then to answer Cian's other question, Joe, about audio description on the Fire Stick, can you do this just from a remote, or does it need to be a bit more involved?
Well, there's a couple of ways of doing this, and yes, you can do it with the remote. The Alexa remote, as Cian mentioned, he likes it. So you can open settings. You can either use the dictate button on the remote to open settings. Then you can go down to accessibility. I think there's 2 down arrows and 2 right arrows, and it'll bring you over to accessibility settings, and then go down until you get to audio description, and you can toggle it on or off, and that should natively put on the audio description on any apps you use on the Fire Stick, like Prime, Netflix, Disney Plus, or any other streaming platforms that you may subscribe to. And the second option to turn it on, then actually there's 3 options. We'll go through the 3 of them actually. The second option is go into the app. If audio description is not on, you can press the down arrow while playback is playing on your Netflix or whatever app it is, and you can down arrow or right arrow until you hear audio settings. Select that, and then press right arrow on that until you get to British English audio description or American English audio description, or whichever one is available. But it has to say the word audio description after the language, and just select that, and audio description will be available for this once anyway, if you know what I mean. And then the third option then, which is probably one of the best ways, is to go into your Netflix or your Disney Plus account, go into settings, and then look for the playback settings and audio description, and turn it on in there in the actual apps themselves. And no matter what platform, or whether it's Apple TV or we'll say the Fire Stick or Google TV, I'd be hoping that it will recognize you're logged in and play the audio description. But there's the 3 ways I'd recommend, and I suppose the first way Cian can try is by going into settings, then accessibility, and then audio description in the Fire Stick itself. So that's what I'd recommend, David.
There you go, and hopefully that's of help, Cian. Yeah, it's interesting. I think audio description is one of those things, drives people absolutely demented for the first week, and then they find it really beneficial. I'd often hear people, would come in here and they'll want to turn it on for like the soaps or whatever. And if they stick with it for that first kind of week or so, they'll realize the true benefits of it, whether that be for subtitles or reading subtitles if someone's speaking in a language you don't understand, or even those, that simple stuff, who's after walking into, the rover's return. That stuff has benefit,
It can be very frustrating, though, sometimes on different TV platforms. For example, BBC Northern Ireland, BBC One Northern Ireland or something, there mightn't be any audio description. But then if you go to BBC London or something, it will be available. So it can be very tricky that way. And it's a pity just all the platforms and all the different regions don't just have it on as default when you turn it on your TV. But they're the little battles we go through every day, David. We're kind of used to them now at this stage. But we just want these things to work, Yeah. Channel 4 is also another very good channel for audio description. I know, so they have some great documentaries and people watching shows and stuff. And the audio description, once it's on them, they do audio description really well. So Yeah, there's a few more places that you can try audio description, and for anyone who doesn't know what audio description is, it's a narration of a verbal narration of I suppose the action parts of the quiet areas in a program that you wouldn't know what's going on unless someone narrated it to you. So that's what it is.
Imagine having to do the audio description for Naked Attraction on Channel 4. Wouldn't you be raging, Joe?
Yeah, well, that'd be a tough gig, David. Tough gig, but someone has to do it.
Well paid, I'm sure, but there you go. Or maybe not, as the case may be. Who knows? But yeah, no, audio description, really useful. You can enable those usually on either on your TV or on the app provider, be that Netflix or RTE Player or Channel 4 or any of those, Disney Plus, Amazon Prime, all of those. Most do have audio description now, which is really good, and hopefully as the European Accessibility Act rolls out, which is only next month, we're only about a month away from that now, we'll start to see more and more happen in that space, which would be brilliant. So hope that answers your questions, Cian, and thanks so much for getting in touch with us again. Really do appreciate it. Someone else who got in touch with us is Tony McDonald. Tony is a blind shell user, and he mentioned his experience with the new blind shell features, namely Observo and the new RSS reader. Here is what Tony had to say.
I've just opened the RSF reader and the Observo section of the images on my camera in my Blind Shell 3 phone, which I updated last year. And their simplicity itself, a really great addition to the phone. So I'm looking forward now to using them much more in the future. Thanks again.
Thanks so much, Tony, for getting in touch. Short and sweet, Joe. Observo, it's good to see Blind Shell, I suppose, keeping up with the other features. Observo, for those who don't know, it's an image description tool, similar to your Be My AI or your Ira or any of those. But it is good to see Blind Shell at least competing in that space, which is good.
Yeah, definitely is. Thanks, Tony, for that lovely quick voice note, and glad to see you're enjoying your Blind Shell. But yeah, David, I agree. They needed to step up and have a vision descriptive app of some sort, and Observo is stepping up, and hopefully it'll suffice and people will find it really good. We'd actually love to hear what people think of it. It's not one I use because I'm an iPhone user myself, and I find the iPhone does work really well for me. But the for anyone that does need a tactile phone, the Blind Shell 3 is an excellent option. Has a lot of access to different apps now, a lot of different apps. So I think Observo, yeah, I'm delighted to see it come to the Blind Shell.
Absolutely. I have got to use the Observo feature. It works decently well as well, which is good. I think that the challenging part is, though, that, these phones, they're quite expensive for button phones.
Yeah, David, the price point is pretty high, but I suppose it is a phone for a niche market as well, and it is a smartphone. So I suppose if you're buying a smart iPhone, well, they're all iPhones are smart, but if you're buying an iPhone, I suppose the cheapest iPhone you're going to get is around the €500 mark. So this is a little bit over the 5, and I think pretty worth it for those who want a tactile button smartphone, because there isn't that many others on the market, if you know what I mean. And this does, I suppose, most of the things an iPhone does. If you really can't use or really don't want to use a touchscreen, this is the only way for you to go. If you want all those smartphone perks, I suppose, like Observo and WhatsApp and access to the internet and all those things you get with a smartphone and GPS and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it is expensive, but for some people it's worth it, and for some people it's unaffordable. But what can we do about the price? Really, it is what it is.
Yeah, for sure. Tony did send us another comment as well. He was critical of the headphones that you get with the Blind Shell. So maybe that is something they'll improve on in the future. But yeah, an interesting product, a great product, but a product for a niche market, I would say, at the same time, Joe.
Yeah, the headphones, I suppose they don't feel that premium, really, David. But I think it still has a 3.5 headphone jack, so that's probably that's probably a good thing for a lot of people. Some people still love that, but then an awful lot of people have moved on from that as well. So it's a catch-22 area, really, the headphone jack. But look, it is I suppose it's a copy of some of the older smartphones that people loved, and that's what you're getting. So I suppose you have to be happy with it, David.
Absolutely. I did have a look here, and yes, it does indeed have a 3.5mm headphone jack. Very, do you know, now that is having courage. Isn't that what Apple used to say when they cut the jack? That is having courage, including a headphone jack.
Yeah.
But there you have it. Tony, thank you so much for sending that in. Really do appreciate it. And thank you as well to Cian for sending in his voice note earlier. If you do have a comment that you would like to share with us, we'd absolutely love to hear it. You can send us a WhatsApp voice note on 086 199 0011, or you can send us an email to content@vi.ie. Now, you may not know, but recently a number of Vision Ireland staff, they took a day trip, believe it or not. They went they hopped in the Vision van, the all-electric Vision van, and they made a daring journey all the way to Gorey. And when they were down in Gorey, they met with a number of SNAs from one of the local schools. And those SNAs have been learning all about Braille with Vision Ireland. So our awesome colleagues Elaine and Mairead, they gathered some recordings from the event for us and asked these SNAs some questions. And one of the questions that they asked is a question that's really interesting. You know, it's one that comes up from time to time. But should Braille be taught in schools? And there are some really interesting responses. So let's hear what happened when we asked SNAs in Gorey whether Braille should be taught in schools.
I would say yes, because kids, I've had 2 young kids myself, they're in primary school, they're sponges, they love this thing. They do sign language in school, and Braille is the next step, if you like, to add to their little, pencil case of knowledge. So I'd love to see kids learning it, because when you get to my age, it gets a little bit more difficult, so the earlier the better.
I think definitely there needs to be huge awareness, because kids are really accepting and supportive of kids with special needs, especially if they're in contact with kids with special needs from a young age. And there's so many kids out there that do have special requirements. So I think it's really important. I think all primary school kids should actually, have a little course about Braille and about supporting and being kind to kids that are visually impaired.
I definitely think an awareness of it should definitely be, and it could be a lovely little module in like TY or something like that, where students have a bit of time to maybe, like we have an inclusion module as part of our TY course here. So having a little Braille element to that would actually be really cool.
Yes, I do. Yeah. I do. I think that it should just raise the awareness of it's another form of reading and communication, and I think all kinds of communication should be taught to students.
And there you have it. We must, I must say, commiserations to the poor soul who sneezed there at the end. But hope they weren't coming down with something or anything like that. Maybe they're doing worse than me. I don't know. But thank you, as I say, to Elaine and Mairead for gathering that. And we will be going back to school later to hear some more thoughts on Braille and learning Braille. But Joe, if I bring you in here, do you think that students should be learning Braille in school? They're learning sign language, as that gentleman mentions there.
I think there's a bit of a difference, in fairness, learning sign language and learning Braille. I think, as someone mentioned there in the little vox pop or whatever you want to call it there, that little recording, it's good to have awareness of it if you're sighted, but to learn it might be a little bit of a step too far as regards trying to get to learn what they're learning already is difficult enough, but then trying to get them to learn Braille, which some people might find a lot difficult or very challenging. But saying that, if you put your mind to it, it's very, very possible, and it's an absolute brilliant skill to have if you're blind, for sure. Awareness training, and actually a good clued in session on what it is, and an example of a few braille cells and a few contractions would be very good for the students. But learn it as full learning module, I'm not sure, David. What do you think yourself?
Do you know what? I kind of agree and I kind of disagree. I think that, there's scope to learn at least grade 1 Braille, I would argue. Maybe they learn that, from a really early age. Maybe it is grade 1 Braille. Because, the unfortunate reality is, right, is that, you don't need Braille until you need it. And inevitably, there is a risk that as some of these kids grow up, some of them may experience sight loss. And you'd wonder, would having a basic understanding of Braille in school, and it doesn't have to be, we don't need to go through the whole and for of the width. I mean, I don't think we're getting to that point. But I do think there would be a value in learning at least grade 1 Braille, even if that was just to A, have an awareness of it, but B, just to mean that, losing sight, should that be something that occurs in that person's life, that it's a little bit less scary. It's always going to be terrifying, don't get me wrong, but to make it a little bit less scary, or am I overambitious, do you think?
Yeah, well, of course, in a perfect world, that does ease the transition. Trying to get a module like this across parents and teachers, I think it could be a challenge, all right. But yeah, I definitely think awareness of the subject and what it is, and maybe, as I said, the first few letters, definitely a good start, a good place to start, and they could expand it down the line. Well, it sounds like it was a really valuable visit to that school in Gorey.
It absolutely does. And as I say, we'll be going back to Gorey, going back to school later on before Tech News. So do stick around for that. But now, though, we teased it at the beginning of the show, but we are delighted to be joined on Talking Technology by a voice who hosted this very podcast for a very long time. He's working for Sight and Sound now, and that's Stuart Lawler. And Stuart and myself got to catch up recently to have a conversation about a new product called the Paige Braille. So here's what happened when myself and Stuart caught up just last week. So joining me now on Talking Technology, I am delighted to be joined by a man who is very familiar to the Talking Technology audience. It's Mr. Stuart Lawler. Stuart, how are you?
Hi, David. Lovely to be in the same room and sitting beside you here in your offices in Cork.
Yeah, it's great. We don't get down to Cork often, but it's great to have you down here.
Lovely to be here.
So, Stuart, I want to talk to you about all things Braille. As always, you are a wizard when it comes to Braille stuff. But one of the devices that we've heard a lot about recently, Stuart, and this is one of these devices that's, I suppose, trying in some regards to bring the cost of Braille down a bit, is the Paige Braille. So I suppose the Paige Braille, it's not a Braille display or a note taker or anything, but what is the Paige Braille?
Yeah, so the Paige Braille is, and I guess one of the other things it's trying to do, as well as bring the cost of Braille down, David, is it's trying to reuse or get people reusing again their classic Perkins Braillers. I think everyone has one under their bed. If you're like me, you use the Brailler a couple of times a year to write cards, but you'll never part with it, right? Mm-hmm. So the Paige Braille is a device that can connect onto your existing Perkins Brailler and essentially transform it into a digital device. So what you do is you screw the bottom base of the Perkins Brailler off, and there's, I think, 12 screws, 15 screws maybe, and you screw the Paige Braille on. Now, the Paige Braille is a flat plate when you get it, because you can buy this with or without a Perkins.
Yeah.
When you get it without a Perkins, it's a flat plate. It comes in an envelope, and there's a little cable coming out of it, and that's a USB cable, and that's used only to power the device. So when you screw it onto your Perkins Brailler and you plug it into USB power, the device then sends out a Bluetooth signal, and you can pair this device to any other, for example, your mobile phone or your computer, and it acts as a Bluetooth keyboard and then interfaces with a web-based application that has been developed for the Paige Connect that will allow, for example, a sighted family member or teacher or friend or whoever to see what the person using the Perkins is writing. And it supports multiple languages as well.
That's really cool. So just to take it back slightly, I take the Paige Connect or the Paige Braille out of the envelope. It's a flat device. I then obviously need to install this into my traditional Perkins Brailler. How accessible is it to do that without sight assistance? Is it difficult?
So full disclosure, I have never done it.
Okay.
But I know there are a couple of visually impaired people who have, and Paige do have a video, 1 or 2 videos on their website where they talk you through this. It is, the screws are very small, so when you're unscrewing the base, you've got to keep all the screws together because you will need them all. The Paige Connect will align then with the Perkins. It will fit over where the base has just been taken off. So you need to make sure it fits snugly and then screw all the screws back in, because obviously the keys, as you press them on the Perkins, will make a connection with the connectors on the Paige Braille in order to send the signal out.
So is this a full, you described it there as a Bluetooth keyboard. Is it a full Bluetooth keyboard? What can I use it for and what can't I use it for?
So you can use it for text input using Braille. So any application that will support Braille, this is not it's a translator in its own app, but if you use this in for example, Microsoft Word, it wouldn't translate. If you use it in the Duxbury translator, for example, as a Braille input device, it will work because you can use 6-key entry there. So any app that supports 6-key entry will work with the Paige Connect. If you're using the Paige Connect translator, which is available on their website, it's a web-based app. That particular application has a whole load of languages that you can choose from. So you can use, for example, UEB, you can use various different languages, and they're using the LibLouis tables, which we know is the free and open source Braille translation software, which is always being updated. And they will be adding more functionality over time.
Do you think they'll ever get to a point where it can do, I suppose, on-device translation, a bit like what a Hable can do, that someone could, in theory, just, connect this as a Bluetooth device to their phone or their computer and use it in something like Microsoft Word or their Notes app or something like that?
Possibly. I'm not sure that the functionality exists in the current hardware for that to happen. So it may require a new device. And they are really focusing at the moment in doing as much as they can server side, especially because of the connections with LibLouis. And it's also worth mentioning that translation is just one aspect. There is a Braille learning tool or suite built in as well. So again, you can go onto the website. You can go to pagebraille.com/learn or pagebraille.com/translate. The learning tools are still being built. But if you go into the learning tools, for example, you can get your computer to call out letters to you and you type them on the Perkins Brailler and it will tell you if you're right or wrong.
So where is the Paige Braille being used most at the moment? Like you mentioned learning there. Is this kind of still being used a lot in education right now?
The market is education at the moment. And the Paige Braille, I suppose, is ideal, I think, for people who are, for maybe very young students, because most kids are still starting off on a Perkins, right? They're not using an electronic note taker just yet. So they're starting off on a Perkins, in many cases being supported by somebody who may not have much Braille or may not have any Braille at all. And that person is trying to help them. And if you can have the Paige Braille set up so that person can see what somebody is writing, that's going to make a big difference. And the other thing probably worth saying about the Paige Braille is that there is virtually no setup involved. You pair the device, you connect it to the Perkins, you pair the device, and sort of after that you're up and running.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept, and it's great to see the Perkins Brailler, that, as you said, many people will have a Perkins Brailler at home. We still do in our house. You have the Perkins Brailler at home. So a lot of people would like a way to, I suppose, get a bit more use out of the Perkins Brailler now.
Absolutely. And maybe if you have a Perkins Brailler, maybe it's something that you're going to pass on to someone else, or maybe you have, a child who's learning Braille and you want to support them. It just gives it a new lease of life, and with the Braille learning tools. And there will be other things that Paige Connect will add over time. I think this technology will become even more useful for the Perkins when, the support, for example, for UEB maths gets better, because most people in school are still using the Perkins for maths anyway. So it would be great if this could be interfaced with Paige, and I know they are working hard to make all that stuff happen.
How much does it, we get to the dirty question now, how much does this cost? We mentioned that it's cheaper than, I suppose, a lot of other electronic Braille devices.
It's sitting somewhere at the moment around 320 euro.
Okay.
So it's, relatively, I know we always talk about, pricing relatively, and
for sure,
we're always talking about assistive technology and the price rate, but it's relatively cheap if you have a device, if you have a Perkins already. And if you don't, you can purchase it with a Perkins too.
And I suppose you mentioned as well, like that the market, at least right now, is primarily in education. Even if we speak slightly broader than devices like the Paige device, where does Braille have a role in the home now? Do you think it still does have a role in the home?
Well, I think that really depends on someone's how somebody is using Braille and where Braille fits into your life. So I will tend to use Braille a lot. At the moment, I'm using Braille probably if I'm not working. The other time I'm using Braille mostly is when I'm reading to my son, because we find that's something interesting to do, and we have these books that have, because he can see, we have books that have Braille and the print, and he can see the pictures and I can read the Braille.
Yeah.
I think people are using Braille though for all sorts of other things. If you're labeling your foods or you're doing other things, lots of people like to read Braille books. I always tend to, if I'm reading for pleasure, I still will probably turn on an audiobook. Might be asleep 10 minutes later, but I still put on the audiobook. So I think how people are using Braille in the home sort of depends on where it's fit into their life and when in their life they were introduced to it, maybe as well. You often hear about people who learned Braille in school, and then they might call themselves, lapsed Braille users. They went away from it for a long time, and then maybe something brought them back, and they've kind of rediscovered Braille. And I think lots of us who use Braille are using this year, when we're celebrating 200 years of Braille, to reflect on some of that stuff and just think about where Braille is in our lives and how and why it's still so relevant.
Fantastic. Stuart, listen, thank you so much. And I'm sure we'll have you on Talking Technology again very soon.
Thanks, Dave. It's a pleasure as always.
Always great to hear from Stuart on Talking Technology, and thank you to Stuart for joining us as well. Always great to hear about devices like the Paige Braille that are doing something that is quite unique, which is great. I do wonder, and I'll ask you this, Joe. Do you think, like we've heard only in the in the news there the last week or so, and we'll talk about it more in Talking Technology news in a bit, about new features from Apple, one of which is this new feature called Braille Access. I wonder, will Braille Access lead to better native support for something like a Paige Braille without the need for it to actually access, the cloud, if you will?
Yeah, I would be hoping so. And I really would, because there is a team working in the background in Apple, and they look to be really enthusiastic about Braille. So I'd be hoping on both sides they will try and make it accessible to the likes of the Paige Braille. Even when you look at the Braille features in the iPhone, like Braille screen input, for example, it's an amazing feature. I've seen people that are fluent in using Braille, using the Braille screen input feature, and they can touch type way faster than I can on the normal QWERTY keyboard on the screen, if you know what I mean. So I think that's an amazing feature now, and you can also access different features now with the Braille input screen with different gestures. So they have updated Braille. They keep updating Braille, and every update in the last 3 or 4 years, I've seen some big updates in Braille. So I would be expecting they will make native, I suppose, devices accessed with the Braille access. I think so, David.
Yeah, we can only hope so. I mean, we've heard that this new Braille access feature is going to work with BRF, Braille Ready Format, those BRF files. So if something's created on the likes of a Braille Sense, you will be able to import something from your Braille Sense or your Braille Note Touch over to your iPhone and work with it natively. I think that's really, really cool. But it will be interesting to see if, something like the Paige Braille does become a lower cost option for people that connected with the iPhone in some fashion down the road. Could be an exciting option. But lots to look forward to. On Paige Braille and with Braille in general. Obviously, we're celebrating Braille 200 this year, which is really exciting. 200 years of what Louis Braille invented there, the Braille code. And it's still going strong. And part of the reason it's still going strong is because there are more and more people continuing to learn Braille. And earlier we took a trip to Gorey because we sent our Vision Ireland colleagues into the Vision van on their trip to Gorey to do some Braille courses and stuff like that with some SNAs for a school down that direction. And we heard earlier on what they feel about teaching Braille just for students in school. But how do they find the process of learning Braille themselves? Well, let's head back to school now and find out, shall we?
Now, Irene, how have you found the process of learning Braille?
I have found it actually a difficult process, to be honest. The initial learning the letters in themselves are okay, but as you progress putting those letters into words, it gets more difficult.
Yeah, that's understandable. Do you feel it would help you in your role as an SNA, what you've learned so far?
Absolutely, and I'm glad I have done what I've done, what I've learned, because it gives me an insight into what other people are dealing with. But I have the basics, and that's all I'd say at this stage. I have the basics of Braille, and I would be able to work my way through it.
I have found it really, really interesting. I think that, the more you use it, the more familiar, the easier it gets. At the start, it's a little bit daunting. There's a lot to learn, but it's just really interesting how people use it and how it helps people communicate.
I found it very interesting. I would have come across it on tablet boxes and things like that before, but never knew exactly, or never even thought about, it being the 6 cells, and that the numbers and the letters would be the same thing. Just found it really interesting,
Yeah, it's very interesting, but quite difficult. I'd say you'd want to be doing it quite regularly to get up to speed with it, but it is nice. Even I was away on holidays and I was able to look at the elevator, and I was able to figure out the numbers and all with the Braille, which was cool. So you're seeing it in more places, so it's definitely an awareness now of it and where it is.
And there you have it, all about that awareness as well, being touched on multiple times in that Vox Pop. And thank you again to Elaine and Mairead who got that audio for us. Much appreciated. Really do appreciate that. So thank you both. Always good to hear about people's experiences of Braille. And we'll have Talking Technology news coming up in just a minute. But if you would like to share your experiences with Braille in the meantime, we would love to hear from you. You can send us a WhatsApp voice note to 086 199 0011. That's 086 199 0011. Or if you would prefer, you can send us an email to content@vi.ie. How did you find learning Braille? Did you learn it in school? Did you learn it after? Did you learn it when you started to lose vision? Did you learn it before? How did you find that whole experience? Either send us a WhatsApp voice note 086 199 0011 or content@vi.ie. But for now, though, let's cross to Mr. Daniel Dunn, and hopefully he's still there and the thunderstorm hasn't been too badly. Let's check in. It's Talking Technology News time.
This is Talking Technology News.
Oh, it's good to report I'm here and all safe, David. So with your latest Talking Technology News, I'm Daniel Dunn. Apple have announced a number of new accessibility features. We have more details on all of these on our website, but here is some of what has been announced. A new accessibility reader will allow users to launch an immersive reader across all apps in a similar way to Google's reading mode feature. You will be able to customize the colors and text and size, and you will also be able to get the device to read the content back to you. This is a really useful feature and will benefit those who may have low vision but don't need to use a full screen reader just yet. A new magnifier button is being introduced on the Mac, allowing users to zoom in using an external camera or their iPhone using continuity camera and using OCR. The feature will integrate with the accessibility reader we discussed earlier. Users will be able to check an app's accessibility credentials on the App Store without needing to purchase or download the app. And Vision Pro users will be able to zoom in to anything in their environment, which sounds really cool. It's a shame, though, that Vision Pro isn't available in Ireland just yet. A new feature called Braille Access will allow users to have their Apple products effectively act as Braille note takers, with the Apple products gaining the ability to work with BRF files as part of the upgrade. Finally, in the vision category, users will be able to temporarily share their accessibility preferences with other devices. So, for example, if you go to a hotel room and there is an iPad for controlling the thermostat, you would, in theory, be able to send your accessibility preferences, allowing you to control that iPad in a way that works for you. This may also be handy for when you want to borrow a sighted friend's phone, or if you want to torture the in-laws by enabling voiceover on their phones during Christmas dinner. Apple have also introduced lots of other features, including improvements to the haptic music and support for brain-computer interfaces, but we'll talk more about that in time. For now, these are really exciting upgrades, and Apple continues to deserve a lot of credit. In other news, Android are also introducing some new accessibility features. TalkBack users will now be able to ask Gemini follow-up questions regarding what's on the screen or on any images they might have. TalkBack already uses Gemini to provide an AI description of an image, but if that description doesn't give you enough context, you will now be able to ask follow-up questions. For example, if you get an image of a child playing with a teddy bear and you want to know what it is written on the teddy bear's tummy, you could ask Gemini that even if it's not provided in the original AI description. This is super cool. Speaking of things that are super cool, new expressive captions will indicate to someone who is hard of hearing when someone stretches out a word. For example, if you're watching a match, there's a big difference between a simple no or a no. So if somebody yells yes or excitedly or tells you you're amazing, you will now be able to know the difference by just reading the captions. There are upgrades to speech recognition for developers on the Android side, as well as enhancements to Chrome, such as the optical character recognition for scanned PDFs, as well as improved page zoom. Both Apple and Google have done a lot to celebrate Global Accessibility Awareness Day, and hopefully these changes will help lots of users. And finally, for now, we often think that about accessibility for humans, but sometimes our animal friends might need a helping hand too. A helping paw, some might say. The dog and puppy training app Doggo has introduced new features to support training dogs for dogs who are deaf or hard of hearing. Often training for dogs involves sounds, such as dog whistles or clickers. With this new update, Doggo has introduced visual training tools such as a light clicker, as well as support for training based on hand gestures. The update celebrates Global Accessibility Awareness Day and shows that accessibility is for everyone, be they human or animal. What's the most unusual but clever accessibility accommodation you've ever seen? Please let us know with a WhatsApp voice note. And that's it for now. Back to you, David.
Thanks so much, Daniel. We really do torture you when doing that news, in fairness. Sorry about that, Daniel. But a true professional, as always. But before we jump into talking about the various accessibility upgrades, Daniel, we need a weather check.
Yeah, it's grand and quiet now. The thunderstorm has blown off to the west.
Brilliant. That's always good. And you maintained power throughout, which is always good.
Yeah, that's the most important because, lightning, while it doesn't even have to be directly overhead, your electricity line could be coming in from a few miles out. And if that gets struck, then you can be knocked off. So, yeah, whenever they're within 10, 20 miles of your area, you're kind of, is this going to knock out the power? So, yeah, you're scrambling. You're putting the phones in charge, and you're doing all this kind of stuff because it's so random. You don't know what's going to get knocked off. So, absolutely. Yeah, thankfully, no loss of power or no loss of broadband. So, and hopefully that's the last thunderstorm for today. But it's hard to know. They're saying a few of them could hit before evening.
Time will tell. So lots of upgrades, and all good news this week. Lots of nice stuff from Apple there, starting us off. You've a lot of experience with the Google Reading mode, Daniel. Do you think this accessibility reader, how will people benefit from it?
Yeah, so in particular, accessing websites, right? It can be, you open some content, you might hit a link on Facebook, or you're just searching for something on the web, or you're just browsing news stories, whatever. Now, in fairness, lots of content is provided free, and when it's provided free, it's loaded with ads. Often these little videos pop up in front of the article, and you have to try and find the X to close them off. So this reader mode is brilliant, right? You can enable it, whether through an accessibility shortcut on your Android phone. And basically what it does is, bam, away goes all the ads, most if not of all the photos. It's just the plain text from the article that you're interested in reading. And you can customize that, if you prefer black background, white text, text at, 5 times zoom. And it's brilliant. There's no scrolling left or right. You just go down the page. And all the writing is there. So it is really, really good little feature that's on Android. And great to see Apple following along, and because Microsoft have it too in Microsoft Word and in Microsoft Edge with their browser. They've quite a good immersive reader. The voices, I have to hat tip Microsoft for in Microsoft Edge, the reading voices. If you change your voice over, let's say, to Emily, it's it is done on the Irish accent, and it is really good. So it's great to see Apple coming along now and catching up. I think they were a little bit left behind on the kind of low vision tools and aids. I think this brings them up on par.
We'll still be stuck with Mora, I'm sure. But there you go.
Yeah, Moira, yes.
Moira. Or should we be lucky, Moira Enhanced. But yes, some really nice upgrades there. Do you know, this also will make me want to try a Vision Pro. It's not available in Ireland yet, but I got to try the Vision Buddy, which is a device. We have a review on that for our Tech on Tap newsletter. But I would love to see the Vision Pro do a lot for people with sight loss, and I think it could do. So some exciting stuff there for sure. And expressive captions on the Android side, Daniel, how useful would this be? Will it be very, very useful?
I think so. How we read a lot. Okay, in today's digital world, we do read a fierce amount, and often, somebody's even through a simple text message, somebody's trying to convey something, and somebody could take offense because of the way something is written, and the person writing it is kind of expressing it in their own mind before they're hitting send, or as they're sending it or typing it to send. Next thing the receiver gets it, but it doesn't always convey the emotion attached to the expression of what's being said in a message. So I think this is a step in the right direction. For somebody following along live captions in this instant, I think it's going to be brilliant. Yeah,
and you'd wonder, will they use this technology and start to roll it out to YouTube? Obviously also owned by Google as well. There's definitely scope to, because if someone is, I think, that great example of watching a match, and, commentators, they can tend to be expressive when the person they want to...
They can be expressive, animated. They can get very animated.
Indeed. But, I there's a beautiful value in that emotion, I think. And I think, for someone who is deaf or hard of hearing, they deserve to have that access as well. So I think this is really exciting and quite creative.
I'm just thinking, how would it work for Marty Morrissey and RTE now? In the Munster final.
Yeah, you'd wonder. But it is cool though, really cool stuff. And finally, Joe, I'm coming to you, Joe, to talk about dogs who are hard of hearing. Did you ever pay much attention? You have 2 little dogs, isn't it? You have, Joe?
2 dogs, yeah. 2 lovely, intelligent little dogs. Hopefully they don't have any vision impairment or deafness. They don't need to use this app. But I do find it amazing that this company has come up with accessibility options for dogs with difficulties like that. I must check out that app now that they have done that. It may mean the rest of the app is really accessible or really good, because to think outside the box and have solutions like that, I think that's actually brilliant from that company.
Yeah, it really is. And I think, it does, like all dogs need training once in a while, whether that's training to go and do the poo outside or whatever the case may be. Or just whether it's just to do tricks. You want them to sit when you say sit or whatever. But how does that work for a dog that's hard of hearing? And I think this support from the Doggo app, that's DOGO, is really, really cool, quite creative. And it just goes to show that accessibility is not just for us humans, Joe.
Not just for us humans. And that's why I think it's so amazing that someone has thought of this. Like a lot of people look at the dogs might have issues. People put over, that's the poor dog, he can't hear or whatever, you know what I mean? So they don't do anything about it. But this is a solution for people that have dogs with hard of hearing or difficulty with their eyesight as well. So as you mentioned in the news piece, people use clickers to get dogs. If you click twice, it means one thing. Click once, it means something else. So there is solutions there before they have problems. But then who comes up with solutions if they have impairments? So I'm really interested to have a look at this app later on, and just not that any issues with my dog, but just to see what it's all about, because I think it's very creative, David.
Absolutely. And there we go. We need creative solutions to solve creative problems. So always good to see, and well done there to the team at Doggo, DOGO, on creating their accessibility solutions for dogs. Do you have any pets, Daniel?
Yeah, we have a golden Labrador and very burly, bouncy girl, and we often call her the kangaroo because she just hops around the place like a kangaroo.
Fair enough, full of energy. How old is she?
Full of energy. About 3 now. She's kind of gone out of kangaroo mode.
I was going to say, start calming down soon, probably.
Start calming down, yeah. But they're a great dog. Great dog.
Brilliant stuff. And they always say dog is a man's best friend. So there you have it. So thank you, Daniel, for reading the news. Thank you, Joe, for all of that as well, telling us about the dogs and discussing Braille and all other matters arising. Much appreciated. And hey, that is about our show for this week. We really have discussed a lot of things, from fire sticks and gaming to dogs having hearing impairments and a number of Braille things and accessibility on Apple devices. There really is no podcast quite like it. But hey, we will be back in 2 weeks' time for another episode of Talking Technology with VI Labs. A reminder that if you do want to get in touch in the meantime, you can do so. You can send us an email to content@vi.ie, or you can send us a WhatsApp voice note 086 199 0011. You can also sign up for our Tech on Tap newsletter. Full details of that can be found on our website vi.ie, where you will also find information on lots of our upcoming courses. Always some really exciting stuff there. But for now, that is episode 84 of Talking Technology. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time, so stay safe, enjoy the heat wave, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye now.
Thanks for listening to the Talking Technology podcast with VI Labs. If you'd like to support our show, please visit vi.ie/donate. Talking Technology is proudly sponsored by IA Labs, the market leader in digital accessibility services. IA Labs, digital inclusion, your legal obligation.